Welcome back, everyone. In this video, our goal is to demonstrate how the smooth tool can be utilized when working with our landscapes. This tool will soften our height maps by getting rid of jagged portions of it. I also like to use this tool to make switchbacks in the side of a mountain, and I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. All right, to access our smooth tool, we need to be under our landscape tab. Make sure you have the sculpt tab then selected within that. And then under our list of tools right here, let's make sure we've selected our smooth tool. Now this tool is pretty easy to use. Let me just increase my brush size here a little bit. I've got some mountainous terrain here that I created ahead of time, and all I need to do is left click and rub my brush over some of this mountainous terrain, and you can see how it's smoothing out gradually. Now obviously tool strength, if I crank this all the way up and rub it over some mountainous terrain over here, it will smooth it out more rapidly. And if I turn it on down and say like 0.1 and rub it over some mountainous terrain, it will smooth it out. It will just be a much more gradual, deliberate effect. Okay, let me set this back to be 0.3. Now this combined layers option checkbox here, what this will do is you're basically saying yes or no and that you want to apply this smoothing effect to multiple layers. So in our sculpting video, I had multiple layers out here. If you do have multiple layers created and you've got sculpting on all of them, or just a couple of them, you can have this checked, and by rubbing this smoothing brush over it, you will be smoothing out all layers that have some sculpting applied to it. Okay, next let's talk about our filter kern radius. What does that do? Well, this is a radius that smoothing is performed over. So essentially, bigger numbers will smooth out bigger details. So let me just increase the size of this to 0.7. I'm gonna go back to my brush size here. So let me find a rather jagged looking peak, something like that. So notice the before, and now I've got my filter kernel radius at 7. If I left click and I'm scrubbing over this, it's gonna flatten that out rather drastically. Now if I do Control plus Z to undo that, now let me set my filter kernel radius down to 1. Now if I brush over this, you can see that it is smoothing it out a little bit, but not quite as much. So the higher values smooth out bigger details, lower values smooth out only the smaller details. Now let's talk about our detail smooth option right here that is currently grayed out. I have to click on this checkbox in order to activate it. Let me set my filter kern radius back to its default here as well. Detail smooth. This determines how much detail is preserved when smoothing. High values removes more details. And let me just crank this all the way up. I'm going to make our brush size like 700. And if I go to the side of a mountain here, let's try, say this mountain is slope. If I was to left click right about here, it's going to flatten things out rather drastically. And if I just kind of weave it in and out like this, I can use this to make a kind of switchback path going up the side of a mountain. That's what I have found to be a rather handy use for the detail smooth. Now, if I was to shrink this all the way down to say like 0.1 and try applying this to the side of our landscape, you're gonna notice I'm holding down the left mouse button right now. Nothing really seems to happen. If I click on the top of a peak here, I can get a little bit of an effect, but not much. So I found that the detail smooth with the values cranked up are really good for making these types of switchbacks. Primary use for that. All right, guys, that is how to use the smooth tool. Rather basic tool to use. Use it a lot to smooth out lumpy terrain. Let's save one more time here. Guys, that'll do it all for this video. We will see you in the next one.